Wave. Great. Well, welcome to first Conservative Home event of this conference in room 5. We've also got another one going on in the marquee, a long programme running till Tuesday. I'm Paul Goodman, editor of Conservative Home, and in a moment we're going to talk to Jihyun Park. Just a word of introduction. Each year, I tend to end up interviewing someone at the Conservative conference, and it's usually a minister. But I thought this year we'd do something a bit different, because I read your story, Jihyun, and then, as you know, Andrew Jimson from Conservative Home came up to interview you when you stood as a council candidate. So I thought I'd talk to Jihyun about the story of her life from North Korea as a refugee to a Conservative council candidate here. And we'll talk back and forth for about 40 minutes. Then we'll have some questions. I'm going to have to let one or two people in from Slido, right, because this is also a virtual event, and there's no good having a virtual event if I don't give the virtual people a crack at the questions too. But without any more ado, we'll get started. So, Jihyun, let's go back to the very beginning and just tell me about your childhood and growing up in North Korea.
Yeah, firstly I said good afternoon everyone, and thank you for your invited me to this wonderful event. So it is an honor to be here. So first I would like to say thank you, this Britain, because you accepted me and my family in here, refugees. So that's why I am here today. And also thank you my very conservative members and also all very residents, because they taught me again why freedom is important and what means politics. And also especially I would like to thank you my North Korean defector, is Timothy Zo. He also another conservative candidate in May in Denton South in Manchester. Yeah, so we all here, so I'm really thankful and honored. So it's usually, the foreign media published about the North Korea owning nuclear weapons or dictators, US, South Korea peace submissions, and nothing to say about people daily life and what is their systems, because North Korea called their systems socialism. But this socialism is totally different East European socialisms. So this country is born in 1948, was born in Marxism, but in 1967 they changed these systems. So they still call it as a Kim Il-sungism and Juche ideology socialism country. So when I was a child, I thought that North Korean people all harmony. And I was too thought about that my life was happy, because we always get medicines from dictators twice a day, one in the morning and they take out and our lives, public life. And then night times they also gave us another medicines, that's self-criticism sessions. So we are not double thinkers. We are all just living prisoners. Is without the fence. So we always spending each day is like a machine. It is a slavery life. So I still memorized that is when I was a child, I sung that is the mini tank. So this song is mini tank advances, our tank advances, crossing American bastards, mini tank advances. So this one is dictators teaching to us public emotions only, hate Americans and South Koreans. And the happy emotions, not your personally, just only with dictators, and then you are happy. So my childhood, I never described my personal emotions with family, because family members, father and mother also teaching to us kind of politics. Respected your leaders. Do great and carefully when you said your word in outside. It is all, we are similar as gaslighting. We are all gaslighting person. So we believed that our life was the happy moment. And all people never think about that it is true or fake, because the life is every time is the same. So North Korea socialism countries, they not allowed any individual rights, and also they not allowed personal rights. So if you do wrong, and they just directly sent to your political prison camp, or tortured, sent to labor camp, or your disappears, and also public executions everywhere. So our life is always scared, and we never believed each other's as family members the same.
Would you say, growing up, that you weren't so much happy in this enclosed system because you knew nothing else, as actually frightened of the state?
Yeah, because we lived in one box, and we didn't see anything. We are not see any lights. So we all lived in dark areas. So we believed when they we saw some light, we believed, oh, that is great. But we don't know that is wrong or nothing.
You've just described the psychology of growing up in the system. What's it like physically? What sort of work your parents did? What did you have to eat and all that? What were the living standards like on the material side?
In North Korea, is still the government give to us rice. So everyone is a different amount. So housewife is 3 grams a day, and the children is 400 grams, and the unit student is 600 grams, and the workers, depending their levels, between 700 to 900 grams. So every house we have got food numbers. So twice a month we get this food. So my house is 4232. So every month is 4, and the 19th our food collection days. But this food is never enough. We always hunger. So children is played outside. We always hunger. So we drink lots of waters. But our played always war games. One is North Korean soldiers, and another team is American bastards. We played that. So our
what were you cast as? Were you an American? Or
yes, yeah. I don't know why we just hated, but it's the government said that it's 2 countries divided. These reasons, Americans. So we hated to them, and we called it to them Yankee bastards. We always thought. So this system is still in North Korea, and the children is still played, and the sports day is also played. One of the options. This is still they played that. Yeah. So that is childhood memories. Still not too much is happiness memories. Always kind of fight war memories.
The question that really follows from what you've said is this, that you've just described this perfectly closed system, right? Not enough food, totalitarian ideology, you knew nothing about the world outside. So the question that then follows is, how did you break out of this on your journey here today? What got you out of the system?
It's North Korea. We also, the people I did mention, that we also divided the 3 different classifications in North Korea. So one is royal families, and the second is middle, just only normal people and hostile people. So until I was 15, I thought that is my family is a royal family because my father was joined the Workers' Party. So I'm really proud of my father. But when I was 14, I found out that my mother is a hostile generations because my grandfather left North Korea in 1950s.
Right.
So I just, my life was really dark because I can't find my future because my mother's side is the hostile classes.
And was your father marked down for that within the system, for marrying a hostile?
Yeah, but after we asked my father, we really angry the child, and then asked my father, why did you marry these hostile females? So my father told to us he's 5 siblings, but his big brother was disabled, and my brother is the second, so he just take care of whole families. So he needs a strong woman who is care about his siblings. So that's why he married my mother. He took his right to his mother. My mother also joined the work party members. But when we find out I was a teenager, 14, my mother's Songbun systems, and I really hated my mother at that time.
Right. So because you're marked down within the system, just on the sheer basis of where you come from. And how did you get out again? There was a famine, wasn't there? And then your brother joined the army and tried to get away, didn't he?
In North Korea, in early 1990s, government stopped our distributions. And then government told us that is American problems, because Americans did the sanctions, so that's why government didn't buy any food. But that is not true. In later 1980s, many socialism countries collapsed down, and early 1990s, the former Soviet Unions collapsed down. So North Korea had financial problems, and no kind of socialism countries supported them. So North Korean government said that is all those much. We fight against Americans. So we now hunger, but that could be better in future. But that is nothing. Every day we saw dead bodies in street, in train stations.
And who did you blame for this? Did you believe what the regime was saying, or were you now beginning to doubt it?
No, of course I believed, because I was brainwashed as a child. Yeah. I believed everything at that times. So we really hard work. We saw the dead bodies, but we never said that this person died of starving. Because socialism country, no one is died of starving. So we call it to them is illness or something like that. Mm-hmm. So in 1996, first my uncle died of in front of me. He's starving. Mm-hmm. So my uncle came to my house and stayed 7 days. But I really loved my uncle, because my mother and my father never told to us nighttime stories or songs or played with to us. But my uncle always to us telling the nighttime stories and joking, laughing to us. So I had lots of memories with him. But when I saw his dead bodies, he's not look like a person. He look like animals. And then we have got not copy, because lots of people died. So we just strawed him with rice straws and buried him mountain. So this is not only my house, it's whole North Korea situations. Every day we wake up and we heard who is died in neighbor and next door, and my school students too, and his colleagues too. How can I say that is still the traumas for us? Because that is innocent people. They only believed in dictators, but they received these starvings.
Tell us about your brother in the army. This is the next thing that happens in your story, isn't it? Is that I think he is forced to join the army, but then doesn't pay the state money. Is that right? Yes, yeah.
In 1997, and then my younger brother vacations to home, so I believed. But 2 days after, the army soldiers, the soldiers came to my house, and they find out that my brother, and also they post everywhere, and the Inminban, and all over the areas, they looked after my home. So I knew that it was really problems. So it's a problem that is North Korea, every person, we pay the loyalty money to government, school student, housewife, workers, armies, everyone. So if you don't pay this loyalty money, you are anti-socialism person. So in 1997, all countries collapsed down, economics also collapsed down. So army, my younger brother also did this kind of business, but it's also collapsed down, and they didn't pay the money to government. So this means the political problems. They have to send the political prisoners. So that's why the members all ran out, and he came to home.
And is it that experience that, as it were, turns you against the state and makes you determined to leave?
That time is not to think about that, but it's my father. My father, that time my father also illness, and he couldn't work outside. But my father told me that you have to leave this country, save your brother. So first time I didn't believe it because my father's work party members. No, yeah, he really joined this work party, but he told to us leave these countries. So we know that is leave. This means also anti-Koreans. Yeah, but
he realized he couldn't leave himself.
Yeah,
but wanted you to go.
Yeah, so my father is save your younger brother. You have to leave. So that message is gave to me is left North Korea. So in 1998, it was February, the really cold winters. So me and my younger brother left North Korea, and I just abandoned my illness father alone in cold dining. So I still don't know when my father's passed away and where he's buried. But our journey is not a success. I didn't save my younger brother.
Tell us about your journey to China and what happened then. How long did it take and how did you get there? And tell us what happened after you arrived.
So in China and North Korea border is only 2 more areas. So that is not too far. Only maybe 20 meters is the 2 more rivers. But Yalu rivers maybe 40 meters is high. So 2 more river is not the high areas. So midnight is north and China, this north area is really cold in winter. So this river is already iced. So me and my younger brother met in near border areas, and we crossed the border midnight. So we just run out. But we halfway, I don't know that is North or China, but when we crossed the halfway, and then shouted North Korean soldiers to us, and they gone fired. So my leg is, I couldn't move, but I continued because it was my father's wish. I want to save my younger brother. So once in China, but I was human trafficking, and then my younger brother sent back to North Korea. So I still don't know that he's alive or not.
Yeah. And you're then trafficked and basically used as a slave by the person to whom you're trafficked. Yes.
Yeah. So in 1990s, that time many females, they crossed the 2 more rivers because they want to save their families or they take care of their families once in China they earn the money and they come back. But in China areas, many smugglers. And when they find out the North Korean females, and they just kidnapped and sold to Chinese men. So same as me, I was sold to Chinese men, and life was slavery. They never accepted to us humans. They only look like to us sex slavers and labor workers. And the whole village is every time is looked to us. And every time man is sat down outside, and they bring some vegetables, something that, oh, you always hunger, eat this one. And then they also told to us, if you escaped this town, we could be bound out to you and killed you. So when I sold to this town, and I found that is 5 North Korean females in these areas. They all human trafficking. So when in road areas, we met each other, but we can't speak because the family members not allowed to us. So I want to give up my life because I already lost my younger brother. I didn't promise my father's wish, I abandoned my illness father. Whole family is gone. But after I found out that I was pregnant.
Did you ever wish at that time you were back in North Korea?
Not too much, because if I sent back to North Korea, I know that what's happened to me. Maybe executions or state prison camp.
And in fact, you do get sent back,
yes,
you, in the story, because someone informs on you to the Chinese authorities, and then you get sent back to North Korea.
Yeah. So when my child born, and then I just take because that is now is my new families in this world. Yeah. So I want to take care of my child. But 5 years after, my dream is gone. That is darkness. Because usually in China, they find out the North Korean refugees because they paid money to them. So whole is Chinese people sometimes, they can't walk outside. They only find that it's North Koreans. So same as me, someone is reported me in Chinese police. So in nighttime, 10 p.m., 10 Chinese authorities came to my house. They just big and, these police guys. And they arrested me in front of my 5-year-old child. So I begged to them, I want to speak to once my son, because I want to told to him, wait, mommy. But authorities never allowed to me, so I didn't say any word to my son, and I sent back to North Korea, and my son alone in China.
Your son's left in China, and you're sent back, and then you're sent to the prison camp.
Yes, yeah. So before we sent back to North Korea, we stayed at Chinese Communist Party prisoners prison. So they searched our bodies. Hope they just took off our old clothes and just search out. And also they handed to us females figures too. And they also asked to us, is kind of some, why are you here? Do you join the church or something that? And they just make a statement and send it to North Korea. So in North Korea, it's the same. They just off our old clothes and search it, everything. And they have 3 questions. Its main question is 3. First, do you meet South Koreans? Do you join church? Or third one is, do you journey to South Korea? So this is really political meanings. So they have to send it to political prison camp. We already saw that is some people sent to political prisons all day. So myself is human trafficking, and I just is arrested at home. So they didn't make any statement. I visited the church or met the South Korean, nothing that. So I was sent to labor camp. So I stayed in labor camp.
Tell us about the camp where you're up at 4:30 in the morning and you work all the way to late at night.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think many people can't imagine in North Korea prisons, because in here we watch the drama. That is, the prison is really dramatic. Yeah, it's bed and the toilet, water. They treat meals every time, or the sunshine is outside. But North Korea is totally different. Inside, no doors, no windows. It's really dark. So first we sent to the security prison camp before I sent to the labor camp, security prison camp. Inside, no windows, just only one door. And the female and the males stayed together. And we have got only one toilet used together, and they covered only this side, 50 centimeters. So when you use the toilet, everyone is looked after you. So the labor camp is the same. This labor camp is the same. They also one toilet, and the female and the man is together, but different rooms. So when I went to the labor camp, they divided different groups. So some group is they working, is building the house or something that, and some group is kind of government, is the agriculture workers. So I was the team of agricultures with 40 females. So we sent in countryside in mountain areas. So we wake up 4:30 a.m. Before the breakfast, we 2 hours, 3 hours work. And then nighttime is until the dark days. And after, we also criticism sessions and learning Kim families' histories, song. And nighttime we slept in a room. So they covered all windows, and they put the 2 buckets inside and no light. So in the morning you wake up, it's smelling and everywhere is disgusting because they use the toilet in a bucket. It's up and smelling. So we are not the humans, everywhere, the body rise, head rises everywhere, and they not allowed kind of waters to us. So females usually period times, but so they not wash off the day part. So all blood is come out the trousers. It's, how do I describe it? I think people never, many people in our world never experienced the North Korean prison camps.
And you get out because you're beaten up by a guard, you get gangrene, and you're not allowed to die in the camp. That's your way out of the camp, isn't it?
Yeah, because we worked in mountain, they not allowed our shoes. So we always, without the shoes, is walking and this is around the way. So in North Korea, road is on pavement, it's animal fees, stones, grasses everywhere. And the poor females, we wearing cow ox stones. So 2 females in front and 2 females in the back. So we always run out without the shoes. So one day I just woke up, my leg was swollen and I couldn't walk, and my temper is 39. And then next day it's yellow, it's smelling really disgusting, yellows came out. And sometimes I was stable and just wake up, but and then it's my halfways, I didn't feel it. My head is, I wanted to go toilet, but I already did that. So my halfways, I didn't, nothing to that feeling. So after they looked at me, and I just is almost dead, hair's changed, the skin's changed. So then they say that you cannot die inside the camp, died outside anyway. So they released me, not only me, another female too. She worked in different areas. So she also managed situations. So we two left this prison camp, and then we sent to these local police stations. So when we went to the local police stations, these ladies always shouted, please, please give me food. But I was really cold. It was summer, it's a really hot day, but I really cold. It's cold, so I begged to police. I didn't need any food. Please, I want sunshine outside. Please. So they looked at me, and I can't escape. My legs all is different, swollen. And then after, bugs came to my leg, and eggs is everywhere.
And how did you then make what's now your second journey to China to find your son?
So when I sent back to North Korea, my memory is only one thing. I want to survive this prisons and then reunited my son again. I want to responsibility his pictures. I can't die in prison. So that is only my memories. So when I sent to local police stations, and then they sent to me in some government places. These places only children live that. So they sent it to me, and every week they checked my conditions. If I better, they bring me again in prison. So 3 months I stayed in these places, but every night time, the children also, they look after me. When I went to the toilet, children always followed me. So 3 months after, my leg is a little bit better, but I didn't tell police. I continued to have problems. And after I found out that it's traffickers. Yeah. So in 1990s, we couldn't find many traffickers, but in 2000, and that time is totally different. It's many traffickers in North Korea areas. So I promised to him. I didn't tell him my son is in China. I only promised him, yes, I want human trafficking again, China, because that is my last option.
You get back to China, and I think somewhere you've written or you said that you thought seeing your son would be a happy experience, but when you eventually found him, it was a sad experience.
Yes, yeah. I thought that maybe my son lived in China, he's not hungry. Yeah. But when I met my son, he looked like that got-JB, the street child. Because Chinese families never care about him. They hated him because they bugged me, but they lost now money because I sent back to North Korea. So they hate my son, and they not give to him proper food. I was heartbreaking when I met my son. unspeakable because he's not criminal person. He's their grandchild.
And you then, with him, try to get out. Indeed, you do get out of China into Mongolia. And tell us about the man who cut the hole in the fence that got you into Mongolia and the Gobi Desert.
Yes, so I have to leave this China because China is not a safe country, and the China Communist Party is not allowed refugees in these states. So me and my son wanted to go save countries. So before I heard that in prison, many people, they gossip say that is South Korea journey or something like that. So I want to do that, this South Korea journey. But my journey was failed. I went to the Shenyang and the Qingdao and the Beijing. I found the South Korea embassy, but I couldn't enter there because outside is many Chinese policies. They take our ID cards. So we met the 11 North Korean refugees in front of Beijing in South Korea embassy. So we 11 people decided that we went to Mongolia. We were in one of the South Korea embassy. So we didn't know where is the Ulaanbaatar, but our all people just only think about we just find out the safe country. So we 11 people crossed the Mongol and then crossed the border. We went to the Mongol and then crossed the borders. So in China, they made 2-meter high fences between the Mongolia borders. So we cut off the fence, but this fence sounds, really hard. If you this fence is cut here, it's cut your the hands or something. So really dangerous. So we cut off, and then everyone is run out because Chinese police cars are usually around there. So all people is gone out, but my son and me is continued work. My leg is still the problems, and my son didn't understand why we crossed this border. So continued the work. Then I found out that it's Chinese police car ride. They came to us. I really scared, but I holding the strong my son's hand, walking. Then after, I really shocked because some man came to us. So I thought that it was a Chinese man. But this man came to us and backed my son and holding my hand. And then we ran again and then cut off second Chinese fence and ran. And after Mongolia fence is only 50 centimeters. So we just arrived in Mongolia. So then I saw this man. So this man is one of the North Korean defectors we met in front of the South Korean embassy. So he saved me and my son's life. And, I fell in love to him. It's first my female, I just love to this man. So this now is my husband, and we all families arrived in the UK in 2008.
And before you. Just completing the journey, you're actually in the Gobi Desert with your son and this man. And your route here, again, involves going back to China, doesn't it? Because you're afraid your son will starve to death in the desert.
Yeah. The Mongolia is the Gobi Desert, but I didn't know the Mongolia was no Gobi Desert. My thought about the desert is sand, white sand, but Mongolia is totally different. So we stayed in there 3 days, but we couldn't find any Mongolian people. So all food is gone, water is gone, and cold. So first, my son is dying, So we decided that we cannot die in this desert. No one find out to us. So we crossed these borders again. And we stayed in China 2 years with this man. So my husband usually made Korean dishes in a home, and I sold it in a market.
In Beijing?
Yes, in Beijing. I sold it in a market. So we just is alive. And 2007, I met the Korean pastor. So he was one of the customers. He usually bought our kimchi or different Korean dishes. So I think he already knew that I was a North Korean. So it's the end of the 2007. He came to me and he told me that it's next year in China is make Olympics. So now they find out that all illegal people and send back to them countries, especially North Koreans. Mm-hmm. So he said that he helped to us send in third countries. So he sent to us United Nations in Beijing. It's not Beijing in there, it's outside Beijing. But myself first heard United Nations. I didn't know that what they help to us. It's a kind of brokers or something that. Mm-hmm. So they asked to us, which country do you want to go? It's South Korea, America, or European country. So you know that is me and my husband also sent back to North Korea once. So we all experience what happened if our journey is unsuccess, and we sent back to North Korea, what happened. So we didn't choose South Korea and America. So we chose European country. The reasons that maybe it's also same problems, but less than South Korea or American journeys. So I chose England.
You weren't a member of the pastor's church, were you? He was just buying your produce in Beijing.
Not everything is they helped to us, so we didn't know much. So we chose the England, and someone is guiding to us Heathrow Airport.
So you arrive at Heathrow.
Yeah.
What's it like? Your first experience of being in the United Kingdom after a lifetime in North Korea, with your journey to China and Mongolia?
I never heard the United Kingdom before I arrived here. I only knew that it's England. So when I arrived in Heathrow, I really shocked because in socialism and communism countries, they only lived in one nation. In North Korea, not allowed any foreign people lives in country, only is the diplomatic workers. But in Heathrow, I saw that many different nations. It is kind of worlds in one areas.
Yep.
Yeah, that is really shock to me. And then we went to the Victoria stations, coach stations, and I saw that many newspapers around there, and people read the newspaper, and after just put the rubbish. It shocked me. North Korea is a newspaper that is really important, because in days they dictators speeches or they pace. So if newspaper we have got a day pace, we just send it to them. It's a piece or something else. But in here, in there is government paces or queen's paces, no one care about. They just put or they sat down.
So your reaction if you saw someone throwing a newspaper away was that something precious and valuable was being...
First time I just maybe police arrest to them or something like that, but it's totally different.
What did you do then, after you'd arrived at Heathrow? How did you end up in Bolton?
After we Victoria stations, we coached. So now I remember that is megabus. Megabus, yeah. And we arrived to Liverpool next day early morning, and 9 o'clock we went to the home office. So we only said that is because I didn't know any English. So we only learned that I can't speak English. I am North Korean. I just only memorized too. And then went to the home office, and after they just find the translators, and then I fingerprint, take my pot, and after they made my ID, and I stayed in temporary house in Liverpool first. So it was three building, this house is 3 buildings. Oh my God, we stayed in this house. That is really romantic because we are not a rich person, but we stayed in this house. And after someone knocked to our doors, and then this, I think, temporarily this house guides, he gave to us 50 pounds. And he already knew that we can't speak English, so he just only accents something. So we understand this by food. Yeah, we almost hunger now. So I really touched me because in North Korea, in China, no one gave me kind of this food freely. I just only walk outside, then they give. But in this world, in England, I still did not say anything, any work to, in this country, but they paid me and they gave to us this food. So me and my husband said, wow, England is, yes, that is British Empire. We still, oh, that is a rich country. We only thought about that. And then 10 days after, I sent back to another place, that is in Berry. So in Berry, and after I got my visa, and after I applied my house, so this house also in Berry same, is now I am 13 years live in Berry. I love today.
What have you been doing in that 13 years? I mean, you've been writing and talking a lot about your experiences in North Korea, of course. Just tell us about the life you and your husband and your son, and you've now got other children, have in Berry.
First, we are Berry. There not many refugees and not many Asian people. So sometimes it's, the teenagers, they call it to us Chinese. And some is bad, the teenagers thrown stones in my home. Yeah. So first time we shouted, but then my husband said that this is England. We are not shouted. We are first learning English and then explained to them, who am I? And then we communications this society, because England is now our homes, our children's futures. Parents, we are doing first and doing great, and then children followed to us. So that is, yeah. So then I started learning my English, and daytimes worked in Korean restaurants. And after 2013, I started human rights activities works, because before I didn't think about that. I became human rights activist because I didn't understand what means human rights or something. That I only talked about that I want to earn lots of money and then buy car, buy house or something like that. But in 2012, my son asked me questions. He told me that, Mommy, I understand everything, but this one is my 5 years old memories. So he said that, Mommy, why did you abandon me and leave me? But I never abandoned my child. So when I heard these questions, I just cried. I didn't say any answers to him until now. So after I stand up, speak out my story under human rights issues, because many voiceless people need our voices, especially my child. So that's why I became now a human rights activist.
Can I understand the story from North Korea, China, Mongolia, here? Your human rights work is in fact part of a way of explaining to your child why you didn't leave, you were forced away. So that takes us to here. Now, I can understand all that, but the next bit, it really brings us here to Manchester. Why did you then join the Conservative Party? You've already, as it were, had quite a life. You've got a lot on your plate here doing your human rights work. You decide to become politically active. So why is that?
I joined the party 2017. So I usually question, me and my husband usually questions ourselves. Is the value of freedom? Is the value of equality? So when I once find out that Milton Friedman once said that a society that puts equality before freedom will get neither. A society that puts freedom before equality will get a higher degree of both. So freedom is really important issues, and freedom is value of wisdoms. So I am freedom person because my journey is socialism countries, communism countries, and then arrived in democratic countries. So this Britain is teaching to me how family is important, and justice and freedom is important to me. So that's why I am conservative. I never choose another parties. I never thought about another parties.
And you just finishing off the Conservative bit of the story, you stood as a council candidate recently, didn't you, in Bolton?
In Bury, yeah.
That's in Bury.
Yeah.
In Bury. That's your first. You'll stand again. Because you weren't elected this time. But do you want to stand again?
Yes, sir. I want to stand again. Yeah.
I suppose the next question comes as, would you stand for Parliament?
I never thought about the parliaments because I chose this councillor. This one is we help the people directly, because nowadays many people need someone voices. Before I never talked about that is politics or something that councillor or something that, but last year was really darkness, yes, and we sat down in our home and we heard that many innocent people died of this COVID. And the families divided, and they can't meet each others. So me and Timothy donations is PPE, 7 care homes in Manchester. And then after they replied to us, refugees came to my country, and now refugees helps our residents. So this message is just affect me. Britain people, they also need someone's voices. So that's why I chose this is a councillor, is community leaders, not just political leaders, community leaders directly helped is females and their families or something that. So I want to choose that as a councillor, but I never thought about it as a parliament.
Just two last questions before everyone else comes in. The first is one about the Conservative Party and one about the country. When the Conservative Party's opponents on the left say this is a kind of irredeemably racist party, right, it's prejudiced against minorities and all that, what's your reaction to that?
I am proud of my parties. They do lots of things. But if we did wrong, we all party members work together on solving this problem. We are not discriminating each other because these discriminations come from socialism and the communism parties divided our individuals. So I want to say that if we do something wrong, we are party members. How many party members in here? Our voice is really important. So we are just a voice to just send to government these messages.
And when people talk about problems in Britain, I'm really interested in how you would approach it. Because having come from North Korea, you might well think, really, we don't have problems at all. Or have you kind of got inside British thinking enough after your time here to feel that we do have problems that are serious, even if they're nothing against those you grew up with?
Yeah, that is totally different because Britain people born in freedom countries. But I was born in totalitarian countries, and we didn't understand what means individuals. We all take out our rights, families, all that. And the communism countries, China is the same. So in here, we are all different. We are born in, and again, when I arrived in 2008, it is my born again in this country. So I am usually think about the positive things first. I'm not to put the negative things first, because my 25 million people live in under the dictatorship countries. Yeah. They not hope, they not get any dreams. But in here, we have got a lot of dreams, opportunities, challenges. So that's why I always put the positive things. So that's why I don't find out any negatives at the moment.
Okay, I think that's enough from me for the moment, so we're going to ask for questions. I can't see anything on Slido yet at all, so who wants to come in? I realise it's quite difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
First of all, I'd say how marvellous it is that you can sit there and say what you said after what you've been through. But as standing as the councillor, sorry, I feel a bit emotional. Thank you very much for the presentation. I think it's blown everybody away, you know, your story. But standing as a councillor, and I don't know how much you lost by, but I really think you should stand for Parliament, and I think you're a credit to the Conservative Party. But my one question would be, how within your own environment within Bury, what type of reaction do you get? You know, because a lot of people won't know your story, you know, but on the local level, what type of reaction do you get?
Yes, my local people, they don't know much about me until the 2018. Because it's 2018, I got Northwest German Award, and many times published my story. So when I outside, as people recognize it to me, but my neighbors already know that, because usually my husband is helping my neighbors and chat lots, and my children is growing up in these areas, so lots of children and parents in there. So in this year, I stand up to my local elections, and you know, my neighbors all just proud of me. Yeah. So still, when I met in street, my residents, and they complained to me, oh, how is it dirty in street, or is it rubbish problems, green belt? So I say that I didn't elected this times, but I want to do my best. Oh, I thought that you already elected in the council. Yeah, so it's very much more know about me. So I'm really thankful, very resident. They never is the criticisms or something that you are refugees in here. How much did you know that this? They never said this word. They always that is welcome to me, and they still give to me messages. Stand up again. So yeah, so that's why I want to stand up again next year.
yeah.
Oh, the microphone. Hello. It's actually not a question. I just want to make the point that I do know you. I'm a councillor in Bury and very delighted to work with you. We all tramped the pavements in all kinds of weathers. You worked extremely hard, and we certainly look forward to having you again. We'd love to have you on board. And you did work very well. It was a disappointment, but I think you're amazing, I have to say. I'm a very brave lady, very special lady.
Thank you.
I'm going to go there and then there. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to echo the comments of colleagues just sat here in awe really at your story. Just curious to hear about the North Korean refugee community in the UK, perhaps how many that totals, and also perhaps what outreach we could do as a party to get more people like yourself, your colleague in the front row, to stand for office, to get involved, because I think you'd be a marvellous asset, you and your community, and in turn obviously help them to become more involved in citizenship. So really curious to hear just how many perhaps there are in the country and how we can help, hopefully.
Yeah, in the UK, it's only less than 1,000 North Korean refugees lives in this country, and most people live in London, in New Malden. That is a Koreatown. It's the South Korea and the North Koreans mixed to live. So we opened the North Korean Community Center in 2018, and we helped the North Korean refugees first teaching English. Because if we don't know that this language, we can't describe that is our life to another people. So that is the most important. And the second is we continue to help to them housing, benefit, or find the workers or something that. And then third one is we just helping to them mental problems. Because all North Korean people, we have got kind of traumatic. They lost families, tortured, repatriation to North Korea, kind of much. So we want to help to now that. So we have got now 20 volunteer teachers in our community. So they want to one-to-one teaching English. So it's now COVID is gone. So we want to open again this community center and helping to English classes also open in these areas. So we need more your helps because we are friendly to yours. Yeah, because North Korean people lived in here is freely. But I want this conference, I want to say that is one thing, but some North Korean refugees still not get the refugee visas. Some people, they lived in here 10 years, but still the asylum seekers. So I want to say that the government urgently solve these problems because they are living in freedom country, but they still don't know what means freedoms.
Thank you very much for your story. I think your story has touched me certainly tremendously, and I think your story is absolutely incredible. And I'm delighted that you chose the UK out of all the countries you could have chosen around the world. We are immensely privileged to receive you and your family. My question is about how you seem to have a voice of hope, of gratitude to the UK of what's happened, about hope for your future, and how are you not angry? Because I hear your story and I hear, we hear many people in the UK moaning about small things by comparison. You have really, really suffered and struggled, and yet you seem to have this hope and this gratitude. I'm just wondering where that's come from. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I've seen these countries, usually younger generations, because in here, education is really lack of education in here. We government not teaching to them much about why is freedom is important issues. So that's why this society is many affected. Community parties is ideologies affected in there, and younger generations never applied. So that is most problems. Myself and Timothy lived in socialism countries. We know that how they destroyed our lives. So I want to fight against this one because this freedom is not ours. That is our generations. So in the UK, these countries designed Magna Carta. Magna Carta. This charter is guaranteed individuals and freedoms, and still the world is models. So Britain, this empire is still in here. We have to fight these communist parties. So now is many people, they all memorized World War II, but they forget Korean War. This is not only Korean War. This is United Kingdom, USA, Australia, all over the many countries joined, have worked with the Chinese Communist Party, North Korea socialism, and the Soviet unions. But this war is still not finished. We continue to fight these wars and then find out our freedoms. We never forget. So that is education. We have to educate our generations.
Okay. Yeah.
You have a very powerful. You have a very powerful story, and I'd like to ask you for my sister-in-law is from Beijing, and she didn't leave China until sometime in her 20s. She's got an MBA, she's very successful. She became a British citizen over 10 years ago, and she enjoys everything that this country has to offer. And yet, I always seem to reach a brick wall if I talk to her about any aspirations of the Taiwanese or the Tibetans or any of these other people surrounding China to have more freedom. And I don't know if you can answer this, but is there something we're fundamentally not getting about the Chinese mindset?
China and North Korea is the same day totalitarian dictatorship country. It's a socialism and the communist party in there. They always destroyed our freedoms. In North Korea, China is already signed the refugees declarations and the 1967 protocol, but they not accept any refugees. they killed their own people and another nations still again. So China is not a safe country. China is still not a safe country, and North Korea is too. We continue to fight. That is last year is coronavirus. That is Wuhan virus came to our society. How they just killed our innocent people, but no one speak out about this virus to Chinese government. Some people only speak to our government. They just shout, they hated and discriminations to government. They never said this one. So that is most problems now is our societies.
Yeah.
I think given everything that you've just said, how do you think we should engage with countries like North Korea? Do we have the right approach? We've seen obviously sanctions, we've seen more recently approaches to try and be soft and gentle, and actually none of that seems to be making a difference. What do you think we should be doing?
There is 30th September 1938. What happened in this land is former Prime Minister in the UK and Hitler, they made a peace agreement. But what happened year after is World War II is happened, and many innocent Jewish people died. So North Korea, we cannot engage to them. We continue the sanction to North Korea and send to these dictators International Criminal Court and the revolutions of North Koreans. Only this one. We not diplomatic work with, because the dictators, they never heard our voices.
Just supplementary before I let Marina in. I'll just ask you again about North Korea, because how did you feel when you saw Trump going to North Korea to try to negotiate? Because after all, American presidents have really, in a certain sense, let this slide. I mean, there was a war in Iraq against a dictator, but no one's got around to invading North Korea. Bush came and Clinton came and Obama came, and the North Koreans have really been in the position of building their arsenal up. And then Trump's actually gone and tried to deal with these people. What did you feel about that?
I was really disappointed because before Trump met Kim Jong-un, he invited some North Korean refugees White House, and he heard that is North Korea human rights issues. But so we all people hope that Trump asked to him about how he is North Korea present camp or all the issues, but he didn't mention. He is North Korea's first time is Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-un, and now is Kim Jong-il, and now is Kim Jong-un. And Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il is not too much is the public spaces in our world. It's only Kim Jong-un is the bring outside and the public. But Trump is just only mentioned, they talked about the nuclear weapons issues, not mentioned they had. It's North Korea, they really scared thing is that human rights issues. But he did mention these issues. So I was really disappointed to that. But he did a lot of great work with the Chinese Communist Party. But he don't mention about the North Korea human rights issues directly to Kim Jong-un.
Marina.
First of all, thank you so much for your story. I had to fight back tears quite a few times. I'm interested if there is any underground culture in North Korea. For example, the Soviet Union, where I was born, we had people printing some forbidden literature and passing it on to each other, or passing the recordings of the Beatles and other sort of Western singers. So I was just wondering if there's anything like that at all in North Korea.
North Korea has never allowed a kind of different cultures inside. They only one cultures, and drawing only North Koreans or army or something that, or they only dictator bases, not allowed any cultures inside North Korea. So after 1990s, is new generations, born in after 1990s, they all changed. They now is changed, and some of the younger people, they watch it outside the dramas or they song the South Korea, something that, but North Korea government still punish it. So in this year, Kim Jong-un is announced that no one watched these foreign medias, because we are great socialism countries. We are not allowed that is capitalism systems inside North Korea. So that's why this country is still allowed 70 years. But this is totally different East socialism countries. This system is totally different. We have to learn that. We have to learn that, so, and then we fight again. Yeah.
Who's next? Anyone? Are we? Can I just ask you, because you got your colleague here who also stood as a council candidate, not in Bury but in Denton and Reddish this year. So tell us about the all-parliamentary party group on North Korea and what it does and if it has any impact.
Oh yeah, APPG North Korea groups. So in this group is not only conservative members, is another party members also joined. So in this year in July, is that APPG North Korea published in another North Korea human rights report and the continued fight and the continued work about the North Korea human rights issues. So I'm really thankful that is a government. And also last year in UK also published human rights reports. And the first time in the UK is they put the North Korea poor companies, that is in North Korea companies, and they sanctions to them. So I hope that is the UK is already joined the United Nations, the human rights groups members, and also the signed refugee actions. So I hope UK continue to speak out these issues and also speak that is loudly. Chinese Communist Party stop repatriations to North Korean refugees. They send them to another third countries. We want to save it today.
So last question, maybe. Oh yes, do.
I first want to say to my dear North Korean friend and colleague, I will appreciate she give the voice on behalf of 25 million North Korean people, our own brothers and sisters. And I can only one thing also say that North Korea tried to destroy us. They tried to destroy our dream and hope. And it's been a long journey with both of us to get to here, to be a Conservative Party member and joining this party conference. So this is a huge impact itself. Who asked about how we engage, against North Koreans and regime what's been doing. This is the story itself is huge impact to the North Korean government and authoritarian regime. So all-party parliamentary group on North Korea, it's cross-party MPs group working on North Korean issues to promote human rights and democracy, and also what's been happening, crimes against humanity in North Korea. And Fiona Bruce MP, if you may remember, she's a Prime Minister's Special Envoy for Freedom of Religion. She chairs APPG group, and also Lord Alton of Liverpool, who traveled to North Korea for occasions. And he can't go there anymore because the North Korean authority gave him black stamp. But that party, cross-party, they really proactively speak on the issues North Korea, what's happening, and also they will engage with North Korean escapees like Jihyun Park and myself. So if any of you would be able to like to participate in and to promote democracy, human rights, and crimes against in North Korea, you're probably able to find all-party parliamentary group on North Korea on Google, or maybe you can also ask your local MPs maybe could write, to join or participate in this event. There are about 36 MPs are currently joined, yeah. So which is a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any last questions? No? Okay, those one, Russell, yeah.
I used to do work with people who've escaped from the Soviet Union, and of course when they first got here they wouldn't have much money, and they would go window shopping, but they wouldn't go to Bond Street, they would go to Sainsbury's, and stare at the meat cabinets, because they couldn't believe that the meat waited for the people and not the other way around. But you, I guess, you had a period in Peking before you came here, so you'd have had some experience of capitalist economic system and a market economy that sort of functioned. But I wonder, what was your first experience where you got to learn about the idea of actually democracy? There's not a democracy in North Korea or China, but there is in the West. And where did you presumably you weren't even taught that system existed in North Korea. I wonder where you discovered that along your journey.
Yeah, before I said that North Korea was born in Marxism in 1948, but after Korean War, and in 1958, North Korea started cultural revolutions. This one is many people don't know. They only know the China cultural revolutions. So in 1958, North Korea, they just divided people and they different levels, elite groups and middle groups and hostiles. And after in 1960s, they removed all Marxism. And in 1967, 25 in May, Kim Il-sung is made one of the conference. And then he published that is Kim Il-sungism and the Juche ideology. So that's why Marxism is already gone, but it's still growing up some areas, gone, and many East countries gone. The reasons that is the people, they changed minds. And they want to see that is around the different countries, heard that is different medias or something that. But North Korea is cut off everything. They just only lived in one box. So people never see, never watch, never listen to another. So they don't know what kind of life is outside. So that's why still they inside. So now it's Kim Jong-un is warning young people not watch the outside medias. So last week I heard that 9,000 people, these young people, they told the police, I already watched it once or twice in medias. Because this means now is younger generations, they now is new think about that outside. But Kim Jong-un is scared because this country made fake sounds. So if people know that it's outside country, collapse down. So that's why we continue to send the kind of medias to North Korea. So that's why BBC Korea is opened in 2017 in here. And still there is America is many, is the Korean medias they want to send it. So but in this land, in the UK, many medias, they speak about the North Korea issues, only nuclear weapons or something that. So that is, I'm really angry that, because people have to know why this country is still strong, they still make nuclear weapons and threaten this world. What kind of systems inside in there? We want to tell them, British people.
Well, thank you very much. In fact, two lots of thanks. I mean, the first is to all of you, because there's some terrific stuff going on at this conference, and you could be in the main hall and you could be at one of the other fringe meetings. But I really think we've heard something absolutely exceptional today, and something that puts our own problems, big as they are, into some kind of perspective. And I mean, Jihyun, you've come a long way, but listening to you, it was like the experience some people describe of going up into space and looking down at the Earth and seeing everything completely differently, as you've really put our experience into some perspective. And sometimes a politician says if they're appointed, I don't know, parliamentary private secretary at the Department of Transport, they say it's a humbling experience, and it probably is. that truthfully it really has been a humbling experience listening to you here today. The last word is yours, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, my last word is still some people, they not look the refugees is the warm eyes, because some people think about that as refugees terrorists or refugees illegal people they want to think about. But refugees are human. We find out that it's freedoms, and we fight ourselves and find freedom here. So refugees teaching to us, freedom is why important to us. And you teaching to us language and cultures and our lives. We want to work together. Because now it's not old world. It's before 1980s, only one nation's work, only English man. It's, the different the languages persons work, Koreans work different. But now you are work together. All languages work together. This means we are on one people. We are changed. I changed your life. You changed my lives, and we are make Great Britain in future.
Thank you very much.